Good evening. We'll take a minute to give everyone an opportunity to get in and get comfortable, and we'll get started. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. We're so excited you're here. We'll take about 60 seconds to give everyone an opportunity to jump on, and we will get started. About 30 more seconds. And I do apologize if you can hear my email notifications. I don't know how to turn them off, guys. Good evening, good evening. We'll get started in just a moment. All right, panelists, thumbs up if you are ready to go. Awesome. So, greetings, friends and families. I'm Dr. Ashley Bennett, co-leader of Accept. And on behalf of Accept, which is Admissions Community Cultivating Equity and Peace Today, I'm excited to welcome you to the second series of Being Black in College. To provide a bit of context, I want to share how we got here. After the deaths of Atiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and too many more to name, we wanted to offer something specific to Black students. Additionally, we recently witnessed Breonna Taylor's killers walk away with no consequences. It's a tale as old as time. So many people are looking for something to believe in again, including myself. I ask that everyone who is with us this evening think about college as an opportunity to earn a seat at the table. While a college degree does not validate any of us, as we are already enough, the panelists wholeheartedly believe that college catapulted us to positions we would not be able to occupy otherwise. We want that for you, your children, and your students. With that, I ask tonight's panelists to introduce themselves by sharing who they are, where they work, and why today's topic, finance in college, speaks to them. So we'll get started with Mara.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Maura Flashner. I'm the Executive Director of Admissions for Florida Atlantic University, located in Boca Raton, Florida. And I am here because paying for college is a big deal, and it can be very overwhelming. And there are a lot of professionals that work at colleges and universities that want to help you. And all of the information that we're going to share with you is free. And that's why we're here, is to be helpful. Thank you.
Naomi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Naomi Brown Jones, and I am an academic advisor at Mass Bay Community College. I identify as an Afro-Latina and a first-generation college graduate, which is super important to my identity and why I do this work. And I think financial aid and financing your college education is super important to be honest and open about. And I think that that's why I was really happy to join this panel today, just because I feel like finances can be a very sort of anxiety-provoking space for folks. But if we can be more honest and open about the dollars and cents, you know, that come in higher education, I think it can make a real difference. So.
Stefan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stefan Golis, and I'm a college counselor at the University of Chicago Laboratory Schools in Chicago, Illinois. Going into now my 19th year working in college admissions and counseling. And I've joined this series of webinars, first and foremost, because I'm a firm believer that in the world right now, there are a lot of things being taken away from us. But at the end of the day, that college degree that you will earn, nobody for the rest of your life will be able to take that away from you. And that is a powerful, powerful thing that you all deserve. And so I am here to support you all and getting to that place.
Andrea?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Williams. I am the CEO of Cultivated Academy, as well as a doctoral student studying the resilience of Black students at the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. And I am here because I am a firm believer in empowering students and families to take control over their educational aspiration. And one part of that is financing for college and finding scholarships and free aid.
And Kelly?
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Kelly Emerson. I'm an academic advisor for Lee College TRIO Student Support Services. I too am a doctoral student, but at Morgan State University for community college leadership. And financial aid has been a predominant topic of our study, and definitely how we can educate, advocate, and definitely make things better. So that's the reason why I'm here today.
Thank you, everyone. We will get started with financing college. The chat feature will be open for the entirety of our talk today, so feel free to chat in with each other. And then there's also a Q&A box. So if you have any specific questions you'd like the panelists to address on air, please enter them in the Q&A just so they don't get lost in the chat feature. We will go ahead and get started. So I'll start with the first question, which we really want to really develop a full understanding of scholarships. So what is the difference between merit-based scholarships, need-based scholarships, and performance-based scholarships? Andrea, you can get us started.
Okay, so the question I get asked the most is about scholarships. So first off, scholarships are free aid that doesn't have to be paid back. So they're complete opposite of federal loans or student loans. A merit-based scholarship is based on your performance. So majority of the time that's academic performance, but that could be athletic performance too, in conjunction with academic performance. And then need-based scholarships are what we call grants. So those terms are kind of interchangeable, and grants are awarded based on mostly financial need. So you get those probably from this government, or sometimes private organizations reward students that too based on the need for finances. And then performance-based scholarships, both merit-based and need-based, can fall into a performance-based scholarship category. Because what we mean by performance-based is that for the duration of the scholarship, you must maintain certain credentials. So that could be a certain GPA, remaining in a certain college program in order to receive the scholarship, and then different qualifications based on that. You must maintain that in order to get the second installment of the scholarship for the duration.
Anyone else want to jump in? Well, it looks like Andrea answered that question perfectly. Okay, so the second question, do PWIs have scholarships specifically for Black students? And by PWI, we are referring to predominantly white universities. Mara, would you like to get us started with that one?
Sure. Yes, several ways that PWIs offer scholarships for Black students, as well as more holistically, maybe for all students of color, or any underrepresented group that might be underrepresented at that institution. So for example, in the state of, at the University of Wisconsin, which is a PWI, they have something called the Lawton Grant, Lawton grant. And it is a grant that looks at academic achievement and financial need that Black students applying to the University of Wisconsin can apply for. And that is an example of a need and an academic package that is specifically for Black students who are admitted to the University of Wisconsin. So that's one example. Other examples would be, for example, at Iowa State University, another Midwestern school, a PWI. One of their graduates is Dr. George Washington Carver. And so there is a scholarship that is named after Dr. Carver that all students of color can apply for. So it is not just for Black students, but Black students among many other students can apply and be considered. And that's based 100% on academics and not based on need. So those are a couple of examples. There are other examples that I have seen where there are various alumni chapters who have a named scholarship after a Black graduate. So I'm in the state of Florida, up the road in Tallahassee, Florida State University is an example where they have a couple of different alumni chapters in different counties for the state of Florida that have scholarships named after a Black graduate that are for Black students to apply for. So there are a number of different ways that institutions make scholarships available to Black students, to all students of color, or to students that are specifically underrepresented within that institution's population. Some of these scholarships require a separate application, which means after you've been admitted to the institution, you have to submit maybe some additional materials, maybe an essay or a separate application for that particular scholarship. So it's always best to check with the institutions that you're looking at or with the scholarship agencies, because there are a number of agencies that are not directly connected to PWIs that give out scholarships for you to take to any institution of your choosing. So I will stop there in case any of my other colleagues want to contribute.
I just wanted to add, so for me, I attended a PWI for undergrad. I was at Providence College in Rhode Island, and we had a scholarship that was specifically geared towards underrepresented student populations, right? And at a PWI, that tends to be students of color, whether it be Black, Brown, Asian, however you may identify. That scholarship was something I needed to apply to, right? And Providence just so happened to me and my 18-year-old self, and the pompous way that I thought at that time, I thought it was my safety school. So I was like, I'm not throwing out that application. And there went the chance, and here came my debt. So I think what's really important about these scholarships is you have to ask the important questions at the time of application, right? You want to ask, am I going to automatically be considered for a particular scholarship based on my application, right? Because now Providence College has actually done away with the application process for that particular full tuition scholarship that I missed out on, right? So now, you know, as long as you check a certain box and identify a certain way on your college application, you're going to be put into the pool to be considered for this full tuition scholarship, right? But you won't know that unless you ask, right? So making sure that, you know, not only are you asking those very important general admissions questions, but asking very, you know, intentional questions around financial aid, because, you know, you're owed the answers, right? That's what they're there for, so.
Yeah. The only other thing I think I want to add to what Naomi and I are saying is, as it relates to scholarships, there are so many free resources out there that I think it's fair to say, I speak for all of us, we don't want you to pay for any kind of scholarship service or any kind of scholarship matching that you might get a solicitation for. There are many legitimate free ways for you to find scholarship money. The first way is the colleges that you're applying to. The second way is there are a handful of resources that we all know to be legitimate in higher education. And one of those is fastweb.com. So fastweb, all one word, capex.com. Another is capex.com. C-A-P-P, Paul, E-X.com. Those are two of the larger sites that are legitimate, are free. Your information, as far as we all know, is very safe with them. It is used for the intended purpose of scholarships. The third site would be scholarships.com. So those are, I think we're all shaking our head. These are free resources outside of the colleges that you're applying to that look through a number of scholarship sites and sources for you. And then there are individual organizations like the NAACP, like the US Postal Service, like any of the Divine Nine fraternity and sorority organizations that offer scholarships, like the United Negro College Fund. So there are some large organizations that have scholarships specifically for folks that might identify with those organizations. And then there are those free sites that I mentioned where that helps you do some of the searching and the legwork for you. But as far as any of us have worked in the higher ed space, we know that those are safe places for you to put in your information.
Stephen, it looked like you wanted to say something at a point. Am I calling you out, Injustice? Yes. It looked like you had something to say.
I'm just getting ready for my question, that's all.
Okay.
Making sure y'all don't jump the gun on me, that's all.
Got it.
I saw a question just come in the chat.
Okay.
I mean, so the question is, what is the effect on that scholarships will have on colleges if you get accepted? I think, so it depends on where the scholarship is coming from. If it's an institutional award, you know, that's something that the institution you've been accepted to is giving you based on whatever parameters have been explained in your FAFSA and your CSS profile, right? So that's the institution's choice. This question, though, reminds me of outside scholarships, right? If you're being awarded a ton of outside money for your freshman year, a bunch of awards that maybe don't renew, that is something that you need to stay on top of, right? Because your institution, your college or university that you're attending is making decisions and determining your financial aid award based on the expectation that that scholarship money is going to stay at a consistent level the entire time that you're on campus. And this is something that definitely happened to me in undergrad, and I've seen it happen to students. Like I got a $2,000 award freshman year, the scholarship didn't renew, but Providence expected me to get that extra $2,000 every year I was on campus, right? So then the bill started looking different. You get to junior year and you can't have a meal plan no more. So, but these are things that, you know, as a first generation student, I didn't even know to keep track of. And I've made sure to always say to students, you know, if you're going to get a scholarship, ask, is this renewable? Do I have to reapply next year? You know, are you guys just going to give me a check one time and leave me out to dry? Because these are really important questions that you want to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would add to that it can also have an impact on your need-based financial aid package. So if you have been admitted to, let's say, Providence College, and you are the recipient of a $20,000 need-based grant, right? That's $20,000 free money that doesn't have you don't have to pay back. But then you inform the financial aid office, hey, I got a $2,000 award from an outside organization. They'll be sending you the check for it. What Providence College would likely do is reduce its institutional aid to you by that $2,000 so that they have that $2,000 back. You typically have to report to the college that you'll be attending if you've got any outside scholarships. Now, there are many colleges and universities now that won't do that. They've said, we've awarded you our financial aid package based, our need-based and merit-based award based on what you gave us when you applied. If you get anything on top of that, that's gravy, that's awesome. You got extra pizza money now. But again, to go back to Naomi's point earlier, it's so critical that you do your homework up front. And when I'm, as a college counselor, working with families, I ask them, you know, do you think you will be applying for need-based financial aid? If so, this needs to be part of the college search process for your family, only because you don't want to have a kind of a bait and switch happen. I think that's rarer than maybe when all of us panelists were in college. I think most colleges and universities have gotten a little bit better thanks to different kinds of legislations, frankly, and laws to make sure that they're much more transparent upfront, and they're defining terms for you when you receive a financial aid application. But, you know, just like if you're buying a car or a house or whatever, you know, let the buyer beware. You really got to do your homework to make sure that you know exactly where each dollar and cent is going to be coming from. And it's a 4-year, hopefully only 4-year undergraduate plan. You want to make sure you know whether or not any merit-based scholarships are going to be renewable. It's a critically important point.
And I'd also like to say, with the scholarships, make sure students oftentimes don't check to see how the check is going to be written or how the check will be sent. So you do want to confirm with, the organization that you are receiving the scholarship from, the preferred method of delivery of the scholarship. Because some students think, oh, well, I got the scholarship, so it's coming to me. And the organization may say, no, I need to send it to your institution. Or you may not even see the funding until you are registered for class and there is a legitimate fee bill or cost of attendance breakdown, so that they can see that you are actually registered. So definitely be careful with that part of the fine print, if you want to call it that.
Kelly, you can keep your mic on, and this next question is for you.
Okay.
You were kind of already in that wheelhouse, but can you talk about the FAFSA? Can you explain what that is and how students access it?
Okay, yes. So FAFSA is actually an acronym for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And it is an electronic application that students fill out, and it's for current and prospective students to receive student financial aid. And that is from the federal government. And your awards encompass grants, work study, and then of course loans. The grants and work study, you do not have to pay back. The loans, unfortunately, you do. And we try to definitely shy away from loans. But, it is understandable if you have to take a loan. We just say that you take one or you borrow responsibly. And because I do work with TRIO, and my population is first generation low income students, that is definitely a conversation that we have in regards to what you could receive from the federal government. And it is based on your parents' income taxes if you are younger than 24 years of age. If you are older and have children, married, in the military, then of course you would be declared independent and can use your own taxes. But it is based on your parents' income taxes and determining basically what you can pay. So hence the unmet need or need-based aid. So that's just a general kind of overview of what FAFSA does encompass. And it can be both for undergraduate and graduate students. So.
Thank you for that. Naomi, can you talk with us a little bit about in-state versus out-of-state? And, I hear often from families that, my mom won't let me attend school out-of-state because of money. And so wanted to talk a little bit about the cost of in-state versus out-of-state. Is out-of-state always more expensive, et cetera?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. And you know, I think what will become a common theme in just every conversation about financial aid is that there is no simple answer, and it all kind of depends, right? Financial aid is very dependent on your family's individual situation. So though, you know, we're giving you sort of a broad perspective in our answers today, it's all very dependent on your individual family's situation, right? So for this sort of conversation, I decided to like pull two schools and compare and contrast. So I was looking at UCLA, which is one of the largest public universities in the country, very popular, it's known to students, right? And then there's sort of across town private competitor USC, right? Two very popular schools for students. And thinking about sort of a very common situation that I've seen with students that I've coached through the college application process. You know, I've got a single parent family here in my example, making about $65,000 a year, roughly. You know, two kids, one's going to be in college. You put all this information into what's called the net price calculator, right? So these calculators are very common, kind of going back to Stephen's point about a lot of legislation that's happened. These are very common and sometimes required through state legislation to be on that financial aid website for whatever school that you're looking at, right? So you plug in your family's information and then you get some information back. You get sort of an idea, a rough idea, and they will, you know, say this on the net price calculators that, you know, this is a rough idea of what you could expect, right? So on the sticker price, you're going to say UCLA, which is roughly around $36,000 for an in-state student, is a much cheaper option based on that sticker price for the student who's interested in USC, right? Where USC is about 69 last look, right? So 69,000 versus 36,000, you know, I'm gonna say I'm gonna go to UCLA just based on that sticker price. But then when you start to put, you know, this examples information into the net price calculator, you see that for a family, 3-person family making about $65,000 a year, USC is gonna give them enough aid, right? Where out-of-pocket costs are expected to be or estimated to be around $1,460. That sounds reasonable, right? I like that. I like the sound of that. So then you're saying, well, UCLA was cheaper to start, so they've got to be coming in cheaper once we put in this information. UCLA, right, is going to come in around $14,500, right, for that 1 year. So once you put in your family situation, the sticker price is completely out of the window, and your best bet is to go to USC, right? And something to think about this is that USC, large private institution, has a lot more institutional dollars to give out to students than a public university is going to have, right? A lot of that money that is given to students from public universities has more stipulations on it, and it's a much smaller pot that they have to choose from. So all of this is going to factor into this answer. And I mean, simply put, it depends, but you always want to do your research, right? This has kind of been another theme of what we've been talking about today, and use those net price calculators in your research process, because that's going to give you the best idea of saying, if I get into UCLA and USC is going to be the one I'm going to go to just based on what, you know, how much it's going to hurt my pocket or not. So a roundabout answer to the question.
I would add to that too, that there are a lot of really creative and interesting things going on now in the world of financing higher ed. There's a lot of schools that are recognizing that they need to practice more aggressively what we in our field call tuition discounting. So meaning, even though they've got the sticker price that Naomi was talking about, they know that, you know, in order for them to fill their class, most of the families who are going to be coming through the door are not going to be paying that. So just to give you a couple of examples, one in the Midwest where I am currently located, there's a great small liberal arts college in Wisconsin called Beloit College. It's one of the colleges that changed lives. If you haven't heard of that book, I strongly recommend you get it. But this is a private liberal arts and sciences liberal arts college. It's got a sticker price of close to, I think, $60,000, but it was recognizing that, wow, we're getting lots of kids from the East Coast, we're getting lots of kids from the West Coast, but our own backyard, families from Wisconsin, but also Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, and I don't remember the fifth state that they're partnering with, but they're basically saying, why aren't we getting kids from our own backyard? And so what they've developed now is they have a program called the Midwest Flagship Match, where if you're from one of these 5 states, Indiana and Michigan are the other ones, sorry. If you're from one of these states, and you have to prove your legal residency, but you choose to go to Beloit over, let's say, the University of Iowa, if you're from Iowa, Beloit is going to charge your family only what the University of Iowa would have charged you for tuition. So this is a school that's getting really creative about ways for them to meet their enrollment goals, but also, you know, for a family in my state currently, Illinois, who might not have been thinking about going even to a private institution, let alone leaving the state. Now I can say to some of my students, well, actually, you know, there's this great small liberal arts college just a little bit north from here that actually is going to cost the same as if you were going to go to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So that's just one example of creative things schools are doing. If you're from, and I don't know where attendees, I don't know where you're from, but if you're from one of the Western states too, there's a great tuition exchange program called WUI that a lot of the Western states participate in, where if you are a student from, let's say, California, and you want to go out of state, and maybe you're looking at UNLV, let's say, you're looking at another public university, but because you're not from Nevada, you're paying like a private, more often than not, you'd be paying a private sticker price because you're not an in-state student. This exchange actually gives you a big discount on that out-of-state student rate if you're a resident of one of the member states on the West Coast. So there are definitely ways that you can get around this. One is certainly applying for need-based financial aid and using those net price calculators, but there are lots of other schools that are doing some creative work to make sure that they get butts in seats, and you can save a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I just remembered too, in terms of that in-state tuition rate, is that there are often a lot of stipulations in what it means to be an in-state resident. So that's something else we want to look into. I used to be at UMass Boston a couple years ago, and we had a student who decided to move to Boston and wanted to then access the in-state tuition rate. But in order to access that in-state tuition rate, he would have to be a Boston resident for at least 2 years, right? So he was really faced with, do I take a break for 2 years so then I can afford my education, or do I push through and, you know, confront more debt? So it's always really important to look at all the information and do your research. And I think Ashley put it in the chat earlier, but don't let the cost of college be the determining factor on whether you apply or not. Apply based on interest. Apply based on programming that you think is going to support you once you're a student on campus, all the good stuff. Ultimately, if a school wants you, they're going to find a way to help you get there financially.
I'd also like to throw out there, I know we were looking at like in-state, of course, versus out-of-state, but also factoring in those students who opt to go to the community college first, or even looking at the community college because they're considering it to be the more affordable option. But upon sometimes digging a little bit deeper, it turned out not to be the most affordable option. Because of how the family's contribution to your education can look compared to the cost of tuition at the community college. So you may end up paying out of pocket there, whereas you could go to a 4-year institution and have your tuition covered. So it would be also adding in that third component of comparing, you know, the cost, overall cost of the community college, to attending the 4-year institution. And I must say, I am a product and I am benefiting from one of those markets, those exchange markets, because my institution is in Maryland, and I was granted in-state tuition. So I'm definitely reaping the benefits of that, but had to do a little bit of digging and do a little bit of homework because I was like, I need to go to summer school. So I need to figure out how to pay for that. So when you are motivated by that, you will find additional ways to fund definitely your education.
I think this is the time where, as a high school student, you want to tell everybody you know that you are looking to go to college, because you don't know who might have some of these tips and insights from an older child, or you never know what their occupation might be. Also, you never know whose company or where your part-time job's parent company might offer scholarships. So a lot of the sort of big name box stores or large business Fortune 500 names that you might recognize, if you're an employee or your parent is an employee or guardian is an employee, then there might be some opportunities out there for you. So it's a good time to sort of brag that, hey, you're looking at college, so that somebody might drop one of these tips on you or say, hey, my church has this scholarship, or I know so-and-so who does free college counseling, or I know so-and-so who works at a place that is looking to give out scholarship money. So this is a time to, not be braggadocious really, but to let folks know what your intentions are, because people want to help and people want to share.
Thank you everyone for that solid advice. This next question is for Stephen. If I am a student who may have not performed very well academically, right? So I'm not in the top of my class, I don't have super high scores, what can I do to finance my college career if merit scholarships aren't going to be a possibility?
So this is a common situation for a lot of students, frankly, right? Where we do our best in high school, and sometimes maybe it's not good enough for a certain school to give me a merit scholarship, right? So a lot of times students and families see, they apply, they don't get the scholarship, and it quite frankly, it's devastating, right? But there are lots of different resources out there. If you plan ahead, and that's really critical here, if you plan ahead, you can avoid this situation, and then you won't have to necessarily, Mara's suggestion, tell everybody you're looking to go to college, right? And hope that, some long lost aunt is gonna come down and give you a check for $80,000 so you can go to college, which would be amazing. But most of us don't have that auntie, right? So a couple things you can do. One, we talked about CapEx and scholarships and fastweb.com. A lot of the scholarships that are available through those sites do have certain parameters to them, like you must have a 3.0 GPA, and if they're still requiring test scores, because this year, as we know, testing's been tough to come by, but there might be a test score you need, and you might have to, maybe it's specifically for a Black student who's interested in STEM. If you're a Black student but you're not interested in STEM, then that's not gonna be for you necessarily, right? But there are tons of other scholarships on there that are put on there by different industries that don't actually have like a, you must have this GPA, you must have these scores kind of parameters on them. It's just, you've got an acceptance in hand and you are going to college and we want to help you. So for example, I had a colleague who got I think it was a $2,000 scholarship or $1,500 by like the 3M and the duct tape, like whatever, Producers of America, to make her prom dress out of duct tape. So she did it, she took a picture of it, and they voted it the prettiest, I don't know, duct tape prom dress that year. That's really hard to say. And they gave her this money, okay? And that, that was $1,500 that her family didn't have to worry about. And she looked into this starting in her junior year, and she did this for her junior prom. So she had this, see, Mara found it. So she had this for her senior year. There's lots of other scholarships out there, again, on CapEx and FastWeb and scholarships, and you got to be patient. It's not just going to come. You really have to dig in, but you can find lots of little things like this that frankly can add up. And I can't tell you the number of times I hear from kids where they just stop looking for independent merit scholarships because they say, oh, it just takes so much time. I'm like, if it takes you 5 hours to research, apply for, and get 3 scholarships, each worth $500, all right, you just made $500 an hour. I don't know about you, but that's certainly more money than I make, at 42 years old with a master's degree. So, certainly these can add up. One thing I would say too is that, again, in the beginning, I said, look, this is something that once you have it in your hand, no one can take away from you, right? It is an investment. And while I don't recommend students borrow heavily at all, keep in mind that there are many schools where maybe you don't get a merit scholarship up front that first year. But if you do really well in your freshman year at a school, and let's say they have an honors program, and you apply to that honors program and get in, you may find yourself with a fat merit scholarship your second, third, and fourth year, okay? And so while, again, we don't want anybody getting themselves in over their heads with debt, know that there are opportunities for merit scholarships at a lot of different schools after that first year as well, okay? Another thing I would say is that there are lots of schools out there that offer merit scholarships that also have nothing to do with the academic work that you did in high school that you're coming in with. So we talked about, again, I talked about how, hey, the duct tape scholarship, I don't know any colleges that are offering that scholarship, but I know a lot of, for example, liberal arts institutions that are giving tuition discounts of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 right off the top for male students who are admitted. Because these are co-ed institutions and they want to be as close to 50-50 as possible, but they have so far fewer males applying that to get the men that they do accept to enroll, they're hooking them up with money. Or if you're a female student and you're looking at STEM and you're applying to a STEM program, if they're short on female students, you may find yourself with a nice juicy merit scholarship because frankly, we need more women in STEM, right? So, when you think about fit in this process in your college search, there's a financial piece to that as well. Sometimes being strategic about the kind of institution you apply for can actually net you money that you may be surprised by. One last thing I will say is, and this is something that I don't think most parents necessarily want to think about, but I think many of us in our 40s, 50s, 60s had a job when we were in college. I know I worked 25 hours a week when I was in college. Was that rough? Absolutely. Did that 25 hours a week working in a restaurant in downtown Providence, Naomi? I worked at Pot au Feu and Cafe Nuovo. Did that money I was making waiting tables pay for my books and my room and board? Yeah, because I was making good money waiting tables. And that was just something my family had to do. And while that wasn't ideal, that was money I didn't borrow, right? And to be honest with you, having my skin in the game in that way definitely made my butt get out of bed in time for those 8 a.m. classes on Fridays that I didn't want to get up for. And it really did make that piece of paper I got at the end of the day it just felt so much bigger than I ever thought it would have because I had that skin in the game. And so don't be afraid to also think about some part-time employment. 25 hours is probably too much, but 10 hours a week, depending upon the campus job or off-campus job you get, that can really help you fill in some gaps. And I know for the college counselors, we oftentimes see kids they're gapped by maybe $2,000, $3,000 a year. I don't mean to say that that's chump change. It's real money, and it's a lot of money for most people. But if you're working 10 hours a week in the library over the course of 2 semesters, you should be able to make that money.
Thank you. Oh, Andrea, you have something to add?
I also wanted to say that I tell students, because something that happened in the community that I live in is that a lot of students don't apply. So you may think that you don't qualify, but nobody else is applying. And there was a scholarship in my community for an African-American student, and no African-American students applied, and it went to a white student. So you just never know. Even if you think that you don't qualify, if you even think a little bit of one qualification, apply anyway, especially for those local scholarships, because if no one applies, nobody gets the money. So if you just apply and take a chance, it's likely that you may be the only one to apply, and then you get the money.
Yeah.
And
that's a really great point. There are a lot of scholarships that go sort of undelivered to students because nobody applies. Like it's really there's millions of dollars that just don't go awarded every year. So you got to go for it. If you don't apply, you can't get it, right?
Foundations that give money, whether it's community or a private organization or some sort of benefactor, they want it to go to whatever that group of students is. So maybe it's African-American students from a certain county or certain state. So apply. I want to like snap and clap and absolutely apply. If you don't apply, you can't be told yes, and you're assuming that it's no. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there are so many folks out there that are trying to give the money away. A lot of us have fielded calls before of like, hey, do you know a student who wants to apply to our school because we have a scholarship for X that we've not been able to award for 2 years. And it's built up. So it's not just $1,000 anymore, it's $3,000 or $4,000 because it just sits there and accumulates. So apply for everything. And Stefan's example about time is money, an hour of your time, couple $1,000, $500. It's more than we're making sitting here with you this evening. So can't underemphasize or overemphasize that enough.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add, I think when you're concerned about merit and are my grades good enough to get me merit-based aid, I think at that point I might advise a student to seriously consider community college as an option. And I'm definitely new to the community college landscape. I've been in my position roughly about 6 months now. And I'm coming from the 4-year world, so that's definitely my lens. But the more that I learn about the community that I'm in, the more that I see the benefit of this space, right? Particularly in the land or in the time of COVID. It is significantly cheaper, even for students that are at, the 4-year flagship here in Massachusetts, UMass Amherst, to come take classes at Mass Bay and then transfer those back to UMass Amherst once the world sort of resets and goes back to normal. And then even beyond that, you could go to community college and have a completely different academic experience than you did in high school, right? Your GPA from high school is not gonna follow you to your next institution, right? It resets, you start from 0. So you could go to community college and rock it. Like I've been working with students that are getting ready to, transfer to a 4-year state institution here in Massachusetts through the Mass Transfer Program. They're at a 3.26, 3.8. They can go for pretty much free 99 because they've earned the grade at the community college level, right? So I think you're never down and out. You always have an option. Always understand that a lot of community colleges are open enrollment institutions. I hate to put us in sort of that last chance spot, but based on what I just saw in those first 2 weeks of registration this semester and how many students were just showing up at our doors, it's okay. Well, we will get you in. And it's not less of an experience, right? our courses are just as rigorous. You know what I'm saying? I'm very proud to hype up our nursing program here at Mass Bay. We were voted #1 in the state, even amongst the 4 years. So it's like, you're not losing out by going to a community college, and you could save a significant amount of money by going this route.
And I second that, especially for the institution that I work for. We took the opportunity over the summer to assist students by actually waiving their tuition if you met certain criteria. So of course, if you meet certain criteria on top of potentially getting some type of scholarship, some type of aid, now you have a zero balance that you could potentially put money away for the time when you are ready to transfer. Or if you have a nice little nest egg, well, now I don't have to use my nest egg for, you know, at least a couple of semesters because I am going, you know, on, you know, a tuition waiver, and the basic requirements were be in the service area, make sure you're a full-time student, because we want you to get in, we want you to, you know, retention is #1, and then we want you to persist. So we don't want you to stay and just hang out. We want you to stay, get your life if you want to at the community college, but make sure you move on and be, you know, a productive citizen. So I do, you know, applaud some of those efforts as well, and major proponent of the community college, because I was at the 4-year institution working with transfer students and got to the stopping point. And it was like, okay, let's see what goes on before this and how we can impact what happens before they get to me and make it a smooth transition.
And one last thing I would add to this is, if you find if your family situation is such that, let's say, you know, it would be a real stretch for your family to hit that $69,000, $70,000, $71,000 out-of-pocket cost at USC, right? But, you know, Danette was saying in the chat, you're from you're from California, and nobody can get into the UCs because they're all impacted, right? There's way too much demand than there is space. But you've got some money saved, and let's say maybe $45,000 or $50,000 your family can swing. You know, that's still a lot of money for most families, but let's say you can do it. You don't want to do community college route. You know, most kids want to study abroad at some point in their college education. Why not think about going to, once COVID is done, I should say this, why not consider going to the UK for university? Why not consider the Netherlands or Germany or other parts of Europe? Or there are great places actually in the Middle East, in Asia, all over the world, that their sticker price, even for an international student, might only be $25,000 all in. The Dutch have one of the highest, most highly regulated higher education systems in the world, and as such, it's also one of the most highly respected in the world. Tuition for a non-Dutch or non-EU student is about €6,600 a year. That's roughly, that's under $10,000 US per year. And then you've got your living cost in your cute little Dutch town, which might be $800 a month. Again, real dollars and cents here, but if you find yourself in that upper middle income category where maybe you're not gonna get the kind of need-based aid you would want in the States, there are great places abroad where for under $40,000 a year, your children can have a really life-changing and also life-affirming experience off the United States.
Thank you all for that. The only thing I will add, I just want to double tap Naomi and Kelly's points about community college, specifically because, you know, we've all been in this profession for a while, and I'm sure we can all agree that students tend to think that is the lesser route. And first, it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish. So no one is looking at your diploma from the college you graduate from and determine, oh no, she started at community college. It's about the end product. So I want to add that. But also, if community college is your end goal, there are great programs, fantastic programs at two-year colleges. And a lot of those programs pay more than we make, all of us on this call. So that's just something I want you to think through as well, because while yes, we would love for everyone to get advanced degrees and be all successful and all those wonderful things, but you can still have a choice-filled life and you can still occupy whatever spaces you're passionate about if you choose the community college or junior college route. Naomi, I see you came off mute, so I'm sure you have something to add.
I was like, there's a thing that I realized. So one of my really good friends works for the vocational high school here in Boston. And we talk a lot about that same exact thing. Going into the trades, you know, can be more lucrative often than getting a 9-to-5 sitting at a desk every day. But I think that the conversations that we're having with students, particularly here in Massachusetts around trades and vocations and that pathway, you know, we're not as strong. But what I've realized at the community college level, for free 99, a lot of these students can come to us for 2 years and get certified. Like Mass Bay, you know, we have our nursing program that we're really well known for, but we've also got an amazing automotive technology program where a lot of students are studying automotive tech at the vocational schools can come to us often for free and get a 2-year certification and then, you know, be on their way. They don't need any more school. Another one of our community colleges here in Massachusetts has an HVAC program, right? Oftentimes you may be paying for that HVAC training because you think that's your only option, but you might be able to find it for free at a community college. It's just all about, again, asking those questions and doing the research, what we keep coming back to.
And as, oh, Kelly, you came off mute. Go ahead.
So I would also like to throw out there that now the community colleges are offering bachelor's degrees. So you can obtain your bachelor's degree in nursing at the community college for a fraction of the cost and getting the same quality education that you would at a 4-year institution. So that is also another avenue and another route. A lot of the like cybersecurity and engineering technology programs, bachelor's degrees are also at the community colleges and are becoming funded by like major companies. So like, you know, BASF, Exxon are putting money, you know, and scholarships into these programs because they want the cream of the crop, the pick of the litter to come out of those colleges and begin to, you know, to work for them. And also, if you do decide to take the technical route and decide later on, oh, I may want to go get a bachelor's degree, at some institutions, there is a route for that as well. And they will take all of your technical credits and apply it to your bachelor's degree. So then the sky is definitely the limit at that, you know, point, because now you've stepped up your game from having a certificate or an associate's degree plus the hands-on to having a bachelor's degree in the field with the hands-on and going to, you know, work for that company. So you could go from, you know, thinking what's a good chunk of change, which definitely is, to a massive, you know, chunk of change with the people with the natural engineering degree. So it's just all on, you know, what you want and making sure that you advocate for yourself and advocate for what you want. And those people that are advocating with you will put you in the positions that you need to be in.
Thank you. One of my favorite quotes is, "Comparison is the thief of joy." I first heard Brene Brown. She said that, and Brene Brown is a fantastic person, but she's known for her work around vulnerability and shame. She's a social worker by trade. And she's Oprah's friend, so it's all good with me. But I first heard her say that, but it was actually Theodore Roosevelt who first coined the phrase. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times students and it's real life. You want to be proud of where you go to school, and you want to be able to tell people, I'm doing this fantastic thing. And if your friends are all at four-year institutions, or they're all pursuing these high leverage majors, you want to be able to say the same thing. But as we've said a few times already, it's all unique. It is about your path. It does depend on you, your goals, your dreams, your finances, your academics. And so please don't limit yourself to what the people around you are doing and experiencing, because that may not be the right path for you. I will speak for myself. I won't throw anyone else under the bus, but I have debt. And it's because I was a young, as Naomi said earlier, you know, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was smart and couldn't know about, right, I was a teenager, right? And that's what a few of you are right now. And so I would just say, if you think beyond your current circumstance and beyond the right now into the future and what you would like to see for yourself, allow that to shape your path versus what your friends or family are doing in this process. So we're going to wrap things up, but I would like to give the panelists an opportunity to share any final thoughts with you. Just anyone jump in if you'd like to.
Just wish you the best. You know, this is an exciting time, but an anxious time as you start looking at colleges and universities. And please know there are lots of other folks like us on college campuses that want to see you be successful. Pretty much every college or university will have an admissions officer or counselor and a financial aid counselor that you are assigned to, that's in charge of your alphabet or your geography or your one of your characteristics as a first-gen student or an underrepresented student. And get that business card and put that number in your phone and make them earn their keep. Ask them the questions, ask them to respond, ask them to help you. That's why I've been in this business for so long, and higher ed is a bit of a business, so I will call it what it is. But there are people on college campuses to help you. Please ask. Please allow us to serve.
Just to piggyback from Mara, since I had the opportunity, I've lived in both worlds, K through 12 and higher ed, and I would say to high schoolers that may be watching is to be sure to ask for help. Ask your school counselor, even if you haven't met them, show up at the office, send passes to them, hound them if you must, but ask for help. That's for parents and for students. Navigating college is hard. Do not feel like you're the only one that is confused about it. We've all been confused about it. We've had to navigate it, and that's why we're here talking to you all. So just be sure to ask for help. That's the most important thing. If you don't know something, ask. Because oftentimes, if trying to do it yourself, you're going to miss out on opportunities. And I have debt too, just like Ashley mentioned. And it's because I didn't ask the right questions or the right people.
Speaking of debt, one thing I had debt too. I think we all probably did on this call. You know, keep in mind too that a bachelor's degree is not going to be the last stop for a lot of you. A lot of you will continue learning, just like many of us on this call, if not, I think all of us on this call have, right? And you hear a lot about return on investment of a bachelor's degree and what is that bachelor's degree going to get you. You know, ask yourself at the beginning of this process, do I want to go to college and learn how to think, or do I want to go to learn how to do something? And whichever sort of category you fit in, go with it, and know that if you change your mind further down the line, that's okay. Schools are always going to be there. You can always go back, right, to school if you want to. But remember that college, that associate's degree or that bachelor's degree is often just the first step of what might be many after high school. And so I think more and more of the students that I work with as a college counselor, we're having that conversation, because many parents are saying, I don't know how I'm going to pay for college, but my child wants to go to medical school. Like, how are we going to do that? So, you know, be smart about this. Know that there's always a plan B and a plan C. And if you do your homework early enough, you can get that bachelor's degree for next to nothing if you're really, really savvy. And, you know, like Ashley said, you listen to the people around you who know what they're talking about, not the folks who, like maybe your school counselor or maybe a financial aid officer at a college. They're there. Call them. Otherwise they're just sitting behind computers all day crunching numbers. They want to talk to humans. You know, you educate yourself on this early enough, and you can plan ahead in a way so that maybe that bachelor's degree doesn't cost your family maybe not quite so much as you thought it would, and there's money left over for medical school or law school or wherever your head and your heart want you to go. But there's ways to do it. You just got to plan.
The last thing I want to throw out there is that the FAFSA does open October 1st. So for those seniors, definitely make sure that you are on top of that. Also, I want to say, and it totally slipped my mind, but I'm sure it will make its way back around. Yes, I have debt too. My name is Kelly Emerson. I have debt. And it took me a while to just realize that because I do want an advanced degree, I am going to have debt. And that is okay. And I think we have to be able to say that for those advanced degrees that yes, that is okay. But if there is an alternative route to not have that debt, definitely take advantage of it. For some of us who, of course, have worked, K through 12 and even in the higher education realm, been privileged to either, take classes for free, have tuition reimbursement, and that can go even up to the doctoral level. So if definitely getting into our area of work is something that you are definitely interested in, that is also another avenue, depending on the institution, to advance your education as well. And because I do a shameless plug, search out your TRIO programs, definitely student support services and the educational opportunity centers. We're definitely there to help as far as, financial aid and searching for scholarships and things of those, things of that nature. So look for those like specific, programs that say, hey, do you fit this category? You're first generation student, come on in, we'll help you, learn everything that you need to know. So yes.
And then I just want to piggyback on that, Andrea, McNair programs as well for our STEM friends that are looking at advanced degrees. I think that's an awesome opportunity as well. I'm a proud Upward Bound graduate, so TRIO is definitely where it's at. But I think the last piece that I wanted to share with students that I don't know that we touched upon, but this will be your first year applying for financial aid. It'll be the first of hopefully another, 3 more after this, right? And remember that this information is going to stay with you the entire time that you're in college, right? And I'm talking specifically about your application documents for FAFSA. I'm in the position where I adopted my nephew. He's applying to college this year, and I'm having to dig up my FAFSA information because it's connected to my social security number, and it always stays the same. So please be organized. Save documents in a place where you can find them again next year, because come 10/1/21, you're going to be applying for financial aid for sophomore year, and you want to be organized and ready to do that. So be organized, have fun. College is the best 4 years of your life. And I definitely, wish that experience for you all.
Mm-hmm. And one last thing, I'm sorry, I just picked this up from the chat. Talking about, the taxes that you do need, of course, is based on 2019. But if there has been any impact to you or your family financially, you can seek out someone in the financial aid office and ask them like what forms you need to fill out, because you have definitely been impacted by, you know, the effects of COVID.
As we close out, I'll just voice over one of the overarching things that I heard today is please ask for help. Use the human resources around you. If that's your high school counselor, if you do have robust college counseling services on your campus, please take advantage of those. But also we realize that some schools aren't as well resourced. And so you may not have college counselors on your campus, or you may have one for the entire school. If that's the case, check into community-based organizations in your area. There are plenty of folks out here with the knowledge to help you. We want to make sure we make this process as seamless as possible for you. And so I just wanted to add that, because I know we've shared a lot of information and it can be overwhelming if this isn't something you do every day. And I do it every day and I still get overwhelmed from time to time. So just please know that there are people out here who are happy to help you. We want you to get to your goals. So I really just thank you on behalf of Accept. Also, we want to thank CollegeWise for providing a lot of the background support for our webinars. You all are great. We will do this every Tuesday for the next month, so please stay tuned. You will receive email invitations, and we'd love to have you every week, same time, different topics. We'll hang out for a few seconds if anyone wants to chat in any questions, but for now, you can definitely log out if you don't have anything else for us. We really appreciate you and have a great night. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you for coming. All right, I'm going to assume that there are no more questions. So we will call it a night and we will see everyone next week. Be safe, everyone. Stay in the house, wear your mask. Bye.